In 1950, two brothers cutting peat in a Danish bog uncover a face. Not a skeleton, a face, eyes closed, stubble on the chin, so perfectly preserved they think he was killed days ago and call the police. He was killed just about 2,400 years ago. Still knotted around his neck is the rope they hanged him with. Someone ended this man on purpose. But that raises a bigger question, one that reaches back far deeper than him. For hundreds of thousands of years, ancient humans had no police, no courts, no prisons, no written laws. So what did they do with someone who broke the rules? Let's start by throwing out everything you picture when you hear the word justice. No judge, no jail, no written law to point at. Instead, imagine your entire world is a band of maybe 30 to 50 people, and you have known every single one of them since the day you were born. That's the setting. And in that setting, the very first system of law enforcement wasn't a weapon or a cage, it was talk. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar argues that gossip is basically a human superpower, the low-cost tool our ancestors used to keep everyone in line. Think about it. In a small band, there are no secrets. If you take more than your share of meat, if you shirk the hunt, if you sneak around with someone else's partner, by nightfall, everyone knows. The whole camp is a surveillance system made of mouths, and your reputation wasn't just your feelings. It was your survival account. A good name meant people shared food with you, watched your kids, backed you in a fight. A bad name meant all of that quietly drying up. So the first punishment humans ever invented wasn't pain. It was shame. Being talked about. Being laughed at around a fire you're not quite welcome at anymore. In a world where you literally cannot survive alone, having everyone think less of you wasn't embarrassing. It was dangerous. And most people fell in line for exactly that reason. But some people didn't. So what happened to them? This is where hunter-gatherer societies do something that still shapes you today. Anthropologist Christopher Boehm spent decades studying them, and he found something striking. These bands were fiercely, aggressively equal. They hated bullies. Anyone who tried to dominate, to hoard, to boss others around, to act like a chief, the group pushed back hard. Boehm called it a reverse dominance hierarchy. Instead of one strongman ruling everyone, everyone quietly teamed up to rule the strongman. Boehm even documented how, when a hunter swaggered back into camp bragging about a huge kill, the others would pointedly insult the meat, calling it scrawny, mocking it, refusing to be impressed, just to keep his ego in check. Humility wasn't a virtue there. It was a survival tactic, and their favorite weapon for it was withdrawal. First they'd mock you, cut the arrogant hunter down with jokes. If that didn't work, they'd ignore you. Stop laughing at your stories. Stop sharing meat. Stop answering when you spoke. They turned you invisible. And if you still didn't change, they reached for the ultimate non-lethal punishment. They made you leave. Exile. Now, to your modern ears, being kicked out sounds survivable. Annoying, lonely, but survivable. Grab your stuff, start over somewhere else. But 30,000 years ago, exile was a death sentence with extra steps. Alone, you had no one to keep watch while you slept, no one to share a kill on the days you failed to find food, no partner, no group to stand with you when a rival band or a pack of predators showed up. The band wasn't a nice to have, it was the only thing standing between you and a very fast, very lonely death. So the worst thing they could do to you wasn't to hurt you, it was to turn their backs and pretend you were already a ghost. But what about the truly dangerous ones? The repeat killer. The bully who wouldn't stop no matter how many times he was shamed or shunned. For him, there was a final answer, and it's darker and stranger than any courtroom. Capital punishment. Boehm surveyed hunter-gatherer societies and found that yes, they did execute people, but not in a rage and not by one angry man. It was done by group consensus, the whole band, quietly agreeing that this person had to go, that he was a threat to everyone. Prehistoric justice wasn't a hot-blooded mob, it was cold, collective, and reluctant. And here's the chilling detail. When a band decided someone had to die, they had a problem. Revenge? If one person did the killing, the dead man's family might come after him. And now you've got a blood feud tearing the group apart for years. So Boehm found their unnervingly clever solution. Very often, they would assign the execution to the condemned man's own close relative, his brother, his cousin, someone from his own family. That way, no one else could cry for vengeance. The family had carried out the sentence itself. Justice, delivered by the hands least likely to start a war. Now, some of you are thinking this all sounds like lawless chaos, cavemen clubbing each other on a whim. It was the opposite. This was a system, gossip, then shame, then shunning, then exile, and only at the very end, death by the agreement of everyone. And we know the violence was real. At a site called Nataruk in Kenya, Archaeologists led by Marta Mirazon-La found the 10,000-year-old remains of 27 people who met brutal, deliberate ends. Ancient humans were absolutely capable of killing each other. And later, when we find individual bodies deliberately killed and staged, like that man in the Danish bog, a rope still around his neck, archaeologists still argue over the line between an execution and a sacrifice. Because to ancient people, the two often blurred into the same act, the group removing someone for the good of the group. The surprise isn't the violence, it's how carefully and how collectively they usually chose to use it. Because here's the truth that outlasts all of them. A band that couldn't control its worst members didn't survive. The groups that made it are the ones that learned to police themselves, and they pass that instinct down to you. So think about what that means. You didn't inherit your ancestors' spears or their fire-making, but you did inherit their court. That squirm of embarrassment when you realize a room is talking about you. That cold drop in your stomach when a group turns against you and the messages suddenly stop. That desperate animal need to be liked, to belong, to not be the one everyone points at. That isn't weakness, and it isn't modern. It's a 300,000-year-old alarm, and for almost all of human history, ignoring it got you left behind to die. The bogman with the rope around his neck was punished by hand, but most ancient humans were kept in line by something far more powerful and far more invisible. The simple, bone-deep terror of the group turning away. We told ourselves we grew out of all that. We built real courts, real prisons, real laws. And then we invented a way to gather the whole tribe onto a glowing screen in your pocket, where a mob of strangers can still shame you, shun you, and make you a ghost overnight. The tribe never actually left. It just got a lot bigger, and it can still reach you anywhere. For more on how the human mind was really built, subscribe. This is Sketchient, and if you want to know how those same tight-knit bands decided who to trust and who to love, watch this next.